Jonah lived during the reign of Jeroboam II of Israel, where God prophesied through Jonah that the king of Israel would regain lost territories, and foretold the history of Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, before it occurred. Jonah is first mentioned in 2 Kings 14:25. Now Jonah and Nahum shared significant similarities. They were sent to Nineveh to preach God's words. Jonah's mission was to warn the Assyrians of their cruelty, as they were known as one of the history's most brutal nations. Their gruesome practice of impaling enemies on wooden spikes exemplified their ruthless rule. Due to their brutality, God, through the prophets Jonah and Nahum, warned that they would face destruction if they persisted in cruelty. Now, true to these prophecies, Nineveh fell to the Babylonians in 612 BC, and the Assyrian Empire disappeared 5 years later. Now, the Assyrians were deeply feared and hated by the Israelites, and when Jonah was asked by the Lord to go to Nineveh to preach, Jonah responded by running away. After spending 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a great fish, Jonah earnestly prayed for his release. Now, after God commanded the fish to release Jonah, the prophet obeyed God and went to Nineveh to warn the Assyrians. Surprisingly, the people of Nineveh, including their king, believed Jonah's message from God and repented. They fasted and covered themselves in sackcloth, which is a sign of contrition. Now, when God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring them to their destruction that he had threatened. But Jonah was not happy with this outcome. The last chapter of the book of Jonah is a dialogue between Jonah and God. The prophet complained, "I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity." Now, Jonah's frustration stemmed from knowing God's compassion. God's intention to bless all nations was first seen in his promise to Abraham. "All peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Now, God revealed something similar to the prophet Isaiah. "Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance." Now, Jonah was angry that God shared his mercy with the brutal Assyrians, who were Israel's enemies. So the story of Jonah concluded with a question from God to Jonah. "Should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell the right hand from their left, and also many animals?" Now, we don't know how Jonah responded to this question, if at all. The story leaves things open-ended, allowing readers to reflect on how they would answer the question if they were in Jonah's situation. Now, however, if Jonah had known what would happen in Nineveh 150 years later, he would not have been so quick to anger. In 612 BC, 150 years later, we saw the city of Nineveh besieged and overtaken by Babylon for the Assyrians' cruelty. So, what this story tells us is that we do not see what God sees, and we ought to trust God with his judgments.